Hello and welcome to Banfield. Hurricane Ian is now officially the fifth most powerful storm ever to hit the U.S. mainland. The confirmed death toll has now passed 100, including 4 people in North Carolina. And if you think the danger is past, think again. The hurricane has become a nor'easter, prompting coastal flooding warnings from New Jersey all the way to North Carolina. 30 million more people are now being affected. In Florida, 5 days after Ian came ashore, almost 2,000 people are still in shelters, 500,000 still without power. Thankfully, more than 2,300 people and 150 pets have been rescued. But things only get more difficult from here. More than 1 million people who were forced out of their homes in the lead up to the storm are now returning, hoping and praying that their homes will still be there. People who ignored evacuation orders and stayed are now emerging to find their communities are unrecognizable and, in some cases, completely gone. Groceries and gasoline can be found, but only after waiting in lines for as long as 6 hours. President Biden and the First Lady will be in Florida on Wednesday to see the devastation for themselves. Today, they were in Puerto Rico, where thousands and thousands of people are still without power 2 weeks after Hurricane Fiona hit there. NewsNation's senior national correspondent Brian Enton is live with me from Fort Myers tonight. And I know, Brian, that you toured Pine Island today. A lot of times the rescue efforts, well, they yield to recovery. And I'm wondering what you're hearing in terms of what they're finding. Are they finding people who are alive, or are they finding people who are dead, or both?
Well, both, Ashley. It is still very much a rescue effort, but we know that they are finding bodies, that they continue to find bodies every day. We have seen the body bags going up into the helicopters and also on the airboats. And it's deceiving out here with some of these houses like this one behind me near Pine Island, because from the backside, it looks okay. Damage, yes, but it looks okay. But you walk around to the other side and you see what this storm did, Ashley. The storm surge came underneath the house, took out the foundation, washed away all the earth under the house, and the entire back of the house didn't just collapse, but it literally fell into the water here. And again, you see this over and over again, and it's heartbreaking because you look into these homes and you can see people's possessions. There's still photos all over the place. And again, what is so disturbing is we've seen it with our own eyes. There are still bodies inside many of these homes, Ashley.
So to that point, Brian, you know, in watching hurricane coverage, a lot of people can eventually start to feel saturated themselves, feeling like so much of the wreckage looks the same. And it ultimately is the stories of the people there that start to differentiate. And to that end, you have the story of a man who was posting to Facebook as this storm was overtaking him. What can you tell me about him?
Yeah, this is just heartbreaking. There's a gentleman, Fort Myers Beach, which is close to where we are now, one of the areas hardest hit. I decided to ride out the storm with his wife. I talked to his daughter today, or I emailed with her. And they thought they'd be okay. And he actually was posting Facebook videos throughout the storm as the surge was getting higher and higher. And he ended up not making it. But take a look at what he posted as the storm was bearing down.
Surge is coming in. Coming down the street already. All right, let's hope for the best. Well, 16 years. Never seen a river on our street. How sad to see the bar bar going down the street. Very, very sad. And they have to go down the block in a day, a couple days, and go see what we can salvage. And those are drums.
Drums too?
Wow.
And that actually was the voice of Mitch Bikina. He later posted on Facebook, not a video, but just the words, "Okay, we're terrified." And he ended up not surviving. The water overtook his home. His wife, we are told, is hospitalized tonight, Ashleigh.
You know, this might be the difference, Brian, between a lot of the other storms that we've covered and this one, is that so many people actually chronicled their journey through this tragedy, and many of them were not able to finish their journals, as we see Mitch Bikina's final posting. And it's just so sad to think. I was just sort of musing to myself, Brian, watching this, wondering what he was thinking as he was watching this water come up. Was he thinking it'll be over soon? Or was he thinking we made a bad decision, we should never have stayed? I just wonder, you know, how he was getting through these images as they became more and more frightful to him. I do want to ask you about another woman that you encountered today, because I can't even believe it happens, but it happens with every storm. People take advantage of those who are at their worst, and we're now hearing about looters taking over Walmarts and robbing people and homes and places. You met a woman who was, she was ready for it. What did you find out?
Yeah, and it's not widespread here, but it is happening. We went out to Pine Island. Keep in mind, this is an island that is now cut off from the mainland. They have no cell service. The road has washed away. The only way to get there, we had to take an airboat. But apparently there are looters taking boats out there. And we met this one woman, Emily, who is armed, and many of her neighbors are armed. We saw them with their guns saying, look, if you try to come on our property and steal anything, you're going to pay. Listen to what she told me.
So, want to make sure everyone knows that it's occupied and protected. I will not back down from anything. I'm here to protect the neighborhood. I protected that building last night, that building this morning. I'm here to protect everything, whatever I can by myself.
These people are serious, Ashleigh. Out on that island where, you know, thousands of people live, we saw just one deputy. So the residents who stayed behind and are there really feel that they are the ones now who have to protect things.
It's frightening to hear her say that she's by herself, but I can understand why she would be armed and ready and put those posts out there, those signs warning anybody who has, you know, an idea to mess with her. Okay, the other question I have for you, and this is so unique to you, because a year ago, Brian, you and I were covering the story of Gabby Petito, and you were for a month, you know, reporting live outside the home of Brian Laundrie and his family, and they are in Southwest Florida, and you actually discovered what happened to their home.
Yeah, they're in Northport, which is an area that was badly hit. I stay in close touch with the neighbors because we were camped out on their lawn for 6 weeks. So they sent me these photos that show there was damage to the Laundrie's home. It looked like a palm tree went on one of the trucks. The fence is down. The netting, which you'll remember from all the aerials around the pool, is down. The good news is those neighbors, who are wonderful people who let us camp out, they are doing okay. They all have no power. The streets are still flooded in that area, but it's another area that was badly hit.
And we should mention, I called Joe Petito during, you know, as the storm was receding and asked if he was okay. And he said that he and his family had lost power, but that they were they were okay. Brian, thanks so much for your reporting tonight. Just really tragic stories, and I think it's not the last of them. Appreciate your work.
Thanks, Ashleigh.
So beyond mere survival is the heavy question: should these people rebuild? It might seem like a no-brainer to put everything back the way it was before the storm, because the rule is when something breaks, you fix it. But now officials are really rethinking that. FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell said this: people need to understand what their potential risk may be, whether it's along the coast, inland along a riverbed, or in Tornado Alley. People need to make informed decisions about what their risk is, and if they choose to rebuild, that they do so in a way that's going to reduce their threat. Some of the people that we've heard from say that they have rebuilt their homes 2 or 3 times over the years. Remember, FEMA is funded by taxpayers' dollars. That's you and me. And insurance is a communal pot. It might be time to ask tough questions like, should people who continue to rebuild and build in high-risk coastal areas keep getting bailed out when their homes are destroyed by these massive storms? I'm joined by Lieutenant General Russell Honore. He was the commander of Joint Task Force Katrina, where he coordinated all of the relief efforts across the Gulf Coast. And Mark Friedlander is with the Insurance Information Institute. So, General Honore, I want to begin with you if I can. It's sort of a question that's simple, right? There's no question we all feel for people who keep losing their homes. That's a given. But I want you to take a look at this time-lapse video of a 15-foot storm surge just off the beach in Fort Myers Beach. It really does show just how intensive and how quickly the water will move in and erase everything, because this isn't far off the actual edge of the beach. And it just is so overwhelming, it's hard to imagine that those are full-size palm trees. Eventually, that water will be up to the fronds and cover the camera too. So the question is, General Honore, is it wise to continue building homes and businesses so close to the sea?
Well, that's going to be the big political question in the coming days and weeks, and the economy is going to resolve some of that. One record I saw that less than 20% of the people in the affected area had insurance. So that will leave them up to FEMA grants and or small business loans, which in many cases will not cover the full cost of recovering a home that's been damaged or to replace them. Much of what you see the search and rescue teams going in, Ashleigh, are where the homes are destroyed and they're having to use cadaver dogs to try and recover the remains. Those are destroyed. And the county and city municipalities have the first shot at this on planning and zoning board decisions on what that structure is going to look like. And Florida has some pretty good laws on the book now for hurricane-proof homes. But as we can see, surge water can take any type of well-built home out. But I think it's going to be the economy is going to drive this, and the insurance company, and how much money the federal government will be able to grant to people to replace a home. Generally, the Stafford Act does not get into replacing homes. It does get into replacing public housing, but it just generally doesn't cover total replacement or rebuild of a home. It goes into repair. And if they're going to get in that, then the Congress and the FEMA and the White House and the governor there are going to have to cut some kind of deal. But I can tell you, most of the elderly and the poor people there are going to have a hard time getting back into their homes.
Well, Mark Friedlander, jump on that train of thought and add to it the fact that, you know, numerous insurance companies go bust. It's happened before in Florida, more than a dozen. It's happened after Katrina. I think it was 11 or 10 insurance companies went broke after Katrina in Louisiana. And it really does beg the question, you know, aside from the federal pot of taxpayers, you know, dollars that go in certain grants or through FEMA, et cetera, will insurance companies even be able to help these people? And ultimately, will insurance companies not insure them if they continue to rebuild in these areas?
Well, these are the trends we're seeing nationally. More people want to live near the coast. I believe the latest data we have, 80% of Floridians live within 10 miles of the coast. We're seeing this in other coastal states all the way up to New England. People want to be near the ocean or near the Gulf despite the hazards. And of course, if you want to live that close to the water bodies, you're going to pay for it in terms of the risk. Insurers are going to charge you for that risk. And in many cases, you may not be able to get coverage because no insurer is going to write risk at that high a level.
So, Russell, Honore, you know, I'm wondering if communities are going to start rethinking their vulnerabilities and start allocating a lot more public money, you know, and communal money, I mean local money, towards seawalls and different kinds of levees or other structures that might be able to protect them. Although, frankly, I don't know how you protect against the ocean. It's pretty big, and coastlines are coastlines.
You know, the Galveston hurricane that killed some 7,000 people, they did put a seawall up. But, you know, you put a 10-foot seawall and you get a 20-foot surge. It could help, but in case of a category of 4 or 5 storm, as we saw in this situation where some of that surge may have been as high as 25 feet, it's going to be pretty hard to protect those communities. And this, actually, where we get to the phase where politicians have to start earning their money, get away from sound bites, do less visiting and a little more planning, and maybe even pull their legislature in because they may have to pass laws. You know, just telling people y'all figure it out, because they're gonna have maybe over 200,000 people. They're going to figure out where they're gonna live, Ashley, in the interim while they clean the debris up. And in some cases, the grid is down in Lee County. They're gonna have to find places for these people to displace to. It's not like they can go, you can ask that many people to go couch surf with friends and relatives. They're gonna have to build camps up so this place can be rebuilt, as from my experience in the past. So politicians gotta get to work now and start collaborating on how they're gonna keep these people safe, how they're gonna feed them, how are they going to put them in hotels or apartments across Florida? They have some tough decisions to make, and it's going to cost a lot.
And we keep talking about money, and I want to return to the fact that we are still counting bodies. We're watching, you know, scenes like this play out where people are being, you know, pulled out by fellow citizens of rubble, alive and dead, as Brian Enton reported. So we're not just talking about money, we're talking about life. I mean, just the notion that the country has to come to the rescue and you know, pay for all of this rebuilding and basically food, shelter, and even the temporary shelters, you know.
If I may say this, Ashley, the recovery work there going in the homes is a lot tougher than it was in Katrina, because the houses were just flooded and we had to pump the water out of the city. These houses are destroyed and they have to go in with cadaver dogs to look for them. We put a whole brigade of the 82nd Airborne in with search and rescue teams to do those 250,000 houses in New Orleans, because you got to search them twice. So it's going to take a lot more manpower than what I see on the ground there.
Sure.
To get every
searching
house.
The rubble. Searching rubble is a hell of a lot different than searching those flooded homes. So, Mark, a final comment to you just about what these people that we're looking at right there and everybody else like them, are they all going to get their payouts? I mean, I feel like it's unfair to say that it's all going to work out. They're going to get their insurance coverage. I feel as though, why should this be any different? Aren't more insurance companies going to go bust with this much need?
Potentially, some of the smaller, struggling home insurers in Florida may not survive the payouts from the storm. However, Florida has backstops in place. There's the Florida Hurricane Catastrophe Fund and the Florida Insurance Guarantee Association. So even if your company goes insolvent, your claim will be paid. You are protected as long as you had home insurance coverage before the storm struck. So that's a good thing for all those that are impacted.
It's a good thing for those impacted, and we obviously feel for them. But as a bigger picture, flying 30,000 feet above all of this, that is public money, ultimately, that will cover those whose insurance companies go bust as well. But it's a conversation surely that is going to continue after tonight. Lieutenant General Russell Honore and Mark Friedlander, thank you both. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.